That's right, folks. It's Wednesday night. This is Panini Primetime, live from the Craters and Freighters studio. Proudly also partnering with the Chris Hope Foundation as I have you locked in on all things Panini Senior Bowl right here in Mobile, Alabama. Day two is in the books. The national team brought the pads and the passions this afternoon. The American team answered under the lights as well with another impressive defensive statement. Two practices, two different identities in 2 different days, and a whole lot of prospects making their name known in front of NFL eyes. Over the next hour, we'll break down both sessions, national first, then the American, as well as 8:30. Get with that guy, Guy Moore, who's down here as well. Talk about some 4-star specials and some players that have really stood out to him thus far in Mobile. All right, let's start with where the day started. The national team practice. You could feel the difference the moment the players took the field this afternoon. Is day one was more of an orientation field. We went over it last night. It was just helmets and shorts yesterday. Well, more install, guys figuring out where they need to line up, what they need to do, the intensity of the coaches and such. Day two brought the sound of impact. We were full pads, changed everything. The intensity, you could tell the defense wanted to go hit somebody at both practices. But the national team charged onto the field at Hancock Whitney Stadium. The contact, the chatter, the competitive fire, it was all there. And this one had some bite, folks. This defense fed off that shift immediately. They brought the heat, both literal and emotional. They flew around the field with purpose, chipping at every single rep. Position coaches were locked in as well, as you saw them always teaching, trying to make players better. So let's talk about the first practice of the day really I thought went well. When you look at who stood out during the national practice, first up is Cole Payton. We talked about him yesterday in article form. We talked about him last night. Head over to 4star.live for more information. But Cole, once again, day two, keeps building momentum by doing everything with composure. I thought the lefty stood really tall in the pocket today, but the real separator is how fluid he was when rolling out and making accurate throws against his body. I thought he did really well. There aren't many quarterbacks in the class who can drive the ball down the field rolling the way he does. In team sessions, he flashed with the same command that made him a winner at North Dakota State. When you look at him adjusting protections, resetting when the pocket squeezed, stepping up in the pocket, doing things like that, but also perfect ball and sometimes perfect ball placement to where only his receivers could make plays. But I mean, it just his efficiency, the way his calmness today. I thought Cole Payton really performed really well a second day in Mobile, and I thought he's had very coachable play. 2 days in, his stock feels like it is quietly trending in the right direction. On the back end during the first practice today, you got to go Colton Hood from Tennessee. He was sharp again. His footwork looks like it's wired to a metronome. Basically, it's just clean, precise, purposeful, and in the individual drills, he again stays patient and balanced. But the way it's just all that carried right into the team aspect where you saw Jacob Rodriguez. We're going to talk about him in just a minute, but Colton Hood came through with a big fumble recovery off of a fumble caused by Jacob Rodriguez. But not just because of the ball, because of the awareness and the timing. I thought Hood mirrored everything in coverage, carried routes confidently, and attacked the ball point with discipline. He's looked like one of the premier corners in the draft all week. And Wednesday, just today, reinforced that. The swagger is there. The technique definitely backs it up. You know, we talked about him. Jacob Rodriguez, today was his first day down here being on the field. And, at linebacker, he's from Texas Tech. He's a pure ball player. The way he's not the twitchiest athlete down here, but his instincts are next level. Early, you saw where he's got some tightness in some of his movements in drills, but once the live periods hit and once he had 10 guys with him, the processing took over. I mean, the way he diagnoses runs instantly, he reads the quarterback's eyes almost fluidly, and the way he kept just finding the football. Plays like that, it's just that's really hard to teach. And then you look at the other side, TJ Parker, man, defensive guy. He came in with a lot of buzz, but he left the practice today with absolute fireworks. His first step's violent. His leverage is absolutely textbook. The way he utilizes it is even more impressive. But then you take all that speed, power, all that. Then you take his contact, power through the contact, and it's unrelenting. He is tenacious with how he attacks, and we're going to use the word tenacious when we talk about another player here shortly too. But when you look at how Jacob Rodriguez and TJ Parker both, uh, the way they just set moves up, the way they counter with intent, they're both NFL ready right now, and the buzz around them both, rightfully so, is very very strong. I mean, as it should be. When you look at the quarterbacks, you talked about Cole Payton. But Diego Pavia, we got a couple of 4-star specials from the national practice, and that's Diego Pavia and Charles Deming, sorry. But you look at Diego, I thought after yesterday, I thought Diego had a really good day. I thought today, um, I thought he was better. He was sacked. I mean, TJ Parker just came around the corner and unrelentlessly took him out, dangerously, nasty player. But you look at the way he just made some really nice throws. He threw a back corner fade in one of in the end zone to was it the Wisconsin wide receiver that got the entire sideline buzzing. But 2 days in, the national team is starting to understand itself. The defense is starting to really drive the engine. There's fast, emotional, and they're very detail driven. Of course, they're in the NFL. They're going to be detail driven. But while the offense is finding chemistry behind poised play from players like Peyton, Pavia as well. I thought Sawyer Robertson looked good today too in day two practice. But the defense really defined day two, and that's really all the way across the board, honestly. When you look at how the national team came in, defense stepped up, defense played really well. Then you look at it on the American side of the way, as the sun would go down, the lights came on, and the American team took the field. And the theme really stayed the same, defense dictating, but the names changed. As it's a Southern core took the stage, as we saw a lot of Razorbacks down there as we get into um, as we get into our Arkansas players and how they perform down there today. When you look at the Arkansas core, of course, it's Taylor Green, Mike Washington Jr., Carmona, Campbell, Neal, and Sorey. And you look at Taylor Green, we'll start there. Talked to a guy today anonymously. He told me, hey, Taylor had probably the best throw I've ever seen him have in his career. And right after that, he looked completely lost out there. Threw a horrible interception. We talked about yesterday how the install is going to be a little bit heavier, and we've made it clear all week. These 4-star specials are Arkansas core, and we've also got an Auburn riser and Tennessee player rising as well. But let's start with the Hogs. Let's start with Taylor Green. I thought he had probably one of the best throws of the day. It was a 60-yard laser. They got everybody talking. But when you balance that kind of wow throw with some of the inconsistencies, plus the interception I just talked about, how are you going to grade him right now? And we're going to talk with our guest about that in about 15 minutes. But because I've got some questions for him on these players. But when you look at Taylor's got the athleticism, it's there. Taylor's got the size, it's there. He's got the arm strength, it's there. He's got the speed, it's there. But the inconsistencies really are hurting him. And when you talk to scouts, when you talk to people who cover the NFL, both on the record and off the record, that's the number one thing they talk about, the inconsistencies, which is where on Monday, Jason brought up the fact that we could very well see him take snaps at another position this week. Now, we haven't seen that thus far. We've seen him only at quarterback thus far in practice. Tomorrow is the final day of practice. So we'll see how that happens. All right, let's talk about up front. We got a front seven. We got Campbell. We got Xavier Sorey Jr., and then we've got Kieran Crawford. Sorey is a linebacker. And I tell you, up front, you've got Cam Ball is really wrecking things, and Kieran Crawford off the edge is incredible. But I thought Xavier Sori really had a good day today. I thought he really played well, really performed well on the field, and it was nice to see. Because you look at yesterday, you look at the way Julian Neal struggled a little bit yesterday, the way he came back today, really had a productive day on the field, really did well, really improved his stock based on yesterday. That's one of the things we talked about last night that we wanted to look at, and that was how is he going to be able to come back and step in today during practice to make a difference, and he did that. He did that, and it really worked out well. I think when you look at how all these Arkansas players, Mike Washington as well, he continues to just dazzle people with his route running. It's very impressive. Kieran Crawford, talking with a couple people today, they anonymously feel like he could work his way into a day two guy. I think right now he's a fringe day into day two, early day three. But if he continues to have a good practice and a good game and stacks days, right? What we've been talking about. It's kind of the theme of the week is stacking days. If he can stack his days, he can move into day two of the NFL draft upcoming. And I think that's what, based on what you've heard and based on what we've seen with our own eyes, he's created a lot of buzz for himself. And he's done it the way he's always kind of done it. I mean, he just kind of goes out and plays. Um, but very impressive. Very, very, very impressive to watch how he has been able, he and all these players that we're focusing on, the 4-star specials, as we like to call them, have all played really well. But you look at today's practices, both American and defense and offense, and you've had eyes on both practices, and defenses have really stepped up. And we're going to get with our guest on this because I've got a few questions about the practices. But what I want to talk to him about is how these defenses came into day two and really played well. And if you look back through practices in Mobile over the past few years, this has been the case. Day one's really install. Day one, you're getting things put in place. Day two, you see the defense step up. Day three, everybody's buying in, and then by the time game day rolls around, you've got a very exciting football game. I appreciate everyone watching and listening tonight as well. We're live on our YouTube and X page. If you enjoy what you see, enjoy what you hear, we're live from the Craters and Freighters studio. If you're needing to get anything shipped out, they shipped us down to Mobile. They can ship you and your belongings as well. If you need something big, small, fragile, expensive, or just downright awkward, they can ship it across the street. They can ship it across the country. They can ship it across the world. Head to cratersandfreighters.com now for more information. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll briefly get into a little more of the practice before we bring our guest in here, right here on the 4-Star Sports Media Network.
And now, back to the show on the 4-Star Sports Media Network.
Welcome back into Panini Primetime, right here on the 4-Star Sports Media Network. I'm your host, Wes Pruitt. You are inside the Craters and Freighters studio. And you're also, if you head over to 4star.live, we've got a a boatload, a wall to wall coverage of the Senior Bowl. You just scroll, there's articles for days on both these teams, plus our 4-star specials that we're focusing on in Mobile. We've got Greg Moore coming up here in about 10 minutes. And before we get him in here, I want to do a little 5-minute segment and we'll take a quick break before he comes in. But when you look at these players and you look at uh, how they've been able to maneuver these first 2 days, and you look at practice and you listen to these coaches and you listen to the players, and for example, Julian Neal yesterday, today, he spoke with the media this morning. We spoke with him a little bit, but when you listen to how he speaks, he understood that yesterday was not his best day. He understood that. He got that. He accepted that. And the fact that he came in today and really performed well throughout the practice, it really showed me that, hey, these Arkansas players, and there's an article out about it at 4star.live, but these Arkansas players are proving right now that the roster on that 2-10 football team was not without talent. There was talent there. Was there coaching issues? Obviously, but there was talent on that roster. And I mean, there's a lot of Arkansas fans that may scoff at this game and go, "Oh, well, that team was 2-10. There's nobody on that team with talent." I can tell you through personal conversations that I've had with NFL scouts and more, including for Mike Washington. There's talent there, and there's eyes on these players. Mike Washington's one of the most highly talented guys coming into this draft. Numerous people are talking about him. Numerous people are talking about Taylor Green. Numerous people are talking about Diego Pavia, for that matter. When you look at the Arkansas Razorbacks, they got 6 down here, and they're making noise. They're all playing well. They're all, even like I said, Julian Neal struggled yesterday, did not struggle today. Really came in and battled really well, and I was impressed with it. I've been impressed with all the players that we're following, and I've been impressed with this game. How Panini America has been able to come in and take over this game as a sponsor. They've done an incredible job. Drew Fabinock is the executive producer of the Senior Bowl. Done an incredible job. Keep in mind, Jim Nagy, who was here for years and years and years, left, went to Oklahoma. Drew has stepped in, done an incredible job with this event. I love that he's allowing more people on the field. We can get on the field. Others can get on the field. He wants you to be included in the event. He wants you to be included in the game. He wants you to be up close and personal with these players, with these coaches. I love it. But also what I thoroughly enjoy is that he's moved the practice times back. We talked a little bit about it on Monday. We talked more about it yesterday. And he spoke very transparently on today about it when he met with the media for Media Day. And he said, look, I did that to allow the players to have a little more time to get some rest in the morning, but then also to allow more time to sit down and meet with teams, to meet with, players, to enjoy camaraderie with players, to get into their books and all that stuff. It's really nice. And I mean, look, they're out of there. Practice ends at 6:00. By the time everybody's off the field, I think they said today they were back to their hotel by 6:45 or 7, which is not bad. So you're back at the hotel by 7:00 at night. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good night there. But you're not starting your day at 8:30, 9:00 in the morning. I mean, you're not starting your day at 7:30, 7:00 in the morning. They allow these guys to sleep in a little bit, and I thoroughly enjoy that. I think it's very smart to allow these guys a little more freedom, a little more flexibility in what they do. But this bowl game has been a lot of fun. It is a bowl game. It's a all-star game. But when you look at um, everything, I mean, you look at the just the rhythm of the week, and you look at the way the pads popped today. Today, like I said earlier, today was the first day where we had full pads. Coaches up the tempo a little bit. And like I said, they're going to continue to install more and more. They'll got one more day of install tomorrow. But the way these teams are communicating, the way they're competing, the way they're closing together, the way they're cheering their teammates on, the way they're reacting to what takes place on the field, no matter what the helmet is, right? No matter who that player came from, it's really fun to listen to these guys pump each other up, to listen to these coaches. I love that these coaches are talking to these players, but the players are retaining the information. And that's what's so important. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we've got Greg Moore coming on to talk all things Senior Bowl right here on Panini Primetime, presented by Craters and Freighters. Welcome back into Panini Primetime, right here on 4-Star Sports Media Network. We are presented to you by Craters and Freighters. We're inside the Craters and Freighters studios, coming to you live from Mobile, Alabama. And also, we have a partnership with the Chris Hope Foundation as they present all of our written coverage. It's almost 8:30 here in Mobile. That means it's time to bring on our guest. He's a familiar voice to a lot of people, but Greg Moore is going to join us here momentarily as we talk about some players from Memphis. Greg's got some connections there, so we wanted to bring him in and get his insights into these players. And I've got some questions for him as well. When you look at this Senior Bowl, when you look at the teams, when you look at the coaches that are here, all 32 teams are going to be here from the NFL. 95% of them have already been here. But you look around and the who's who of the college coaches. I talked last night about how we saw Brett Venables and we saw Dabo Swinney get together. Today you look on the sidelines and you see guys like Brian Baldinger. You see guys, the new Titans head coach or offensive coordinator Brian Daboll was down here today as well. So you see all these guys and you see them walking around taking notes, but you always kind of wonder, what are they looking for? What keys are they trying to find? And that's why I wanted to get Greg on tonight to discuss some of the Memphis guys, but also some of what he's seen so far in the game. And then tomorrow night, we've got Anthony Russo coming on, and then working on a guest for Friday evening as well. Then tomorrow morning on the Sports Buffet, we've got Tony Siracusa coming on at the 9:30 hour. At 9:30, he'll be on 9:30 to 9:45 tomorrow morning to discuss the Duke and Darian Mensah saga. As we knew it was coming to a lawsuit. We just didn't know what was going to take place. So we'll get Tony on there um, and get his insight because I know he's got much to say. Waiting on Greg to get in here. As soon as Greg gets in here, we will be good to go. Tell you what, let's take a small break before he gets in. When he gets in here, we'll be right back on Panini Primetime, right here from Mobile, Alabama, on the 4 Star Sports Media Network.
It's time!
Welcome back into Panini Primetime. I'm your host, Wes Pruitt. Hope everyone's doing well. Got Greg Moore coming in the room here momentarily. As soon as he gets in here, we will get more information from him. And it's been a jam-packed 2 days here in Mobile. I mean, when you look at the two practices, like I said, yesterday was install day number one. Yesterday was more of get your feet wet, figure out where you're going to be. Today was, okay, let's take what we learned yesterday and utilize it today, but then be better football players. And I think that's what we saw today. You look at guys like LSU wide receiver Barryon Brown. I thought really played well. Former Pearl Con wide receiver as well in the Tennessee area. But you look at him, I thought he played really well today, going against some of the top defensive backs in the country. And that's one of the big things is this game is the best of the best. There's not players that are better than this. He made some money for himself today down in Mobile, Alabama, as did a lot of players. And we're going to get with Greg here momentarily to talk about some other guys he thought he saw that made some money today. And I think when you look at some of the 4 Star specials that we've got, I think there's some of those guys down here are making name and making money for themselves as well. Appreciate everyone watching and listening. And before we get Greg in here, I guess I can go ahead and do the moment of hope. And if you watched a couple of nights ago, I became very emotional. This trip's important to me, and the fact that we're partnering with the Chris Hope Foundation is even more important to me. I spent a large portion of my childhood in a incubator, and it was a pain. The word hope took quite some time. The word hope was not easy. The word hope was not something that sorry. The word hope is not something that I understood. 4 years ago, after my medical event, heart attack, whatever you want to call it, I had to learn how to survive with the word hope. I had to learn um, how to understand that we're waiting on Greg. I don't know if he's having technical difficulties or I'm having technical difficulties, one of the two. But tell you what, let's take a quick break. I don't want to just sit here and buffer. We'll take a quick break and come back. We'll get Greg in here, and we'll get this thing going right here on the Four Star Sports Media Network. Dog. What's going on, folks? Welcome back in Panini Primetime. I believe we got the situation taken care of. I think I sent him the wrong link, actually, guys. Shocker! I sent somebody the wrong link. That's funny. Welcome back, Panini Primetime, presented by Craters and Freighters. You're live inside the Craters and Freighters studio in Mobile, Alabama. Waiting on Greg Moore to get in here as soon as he does. And this is my bad. He should have been in here. This is my fault. This is all my fault. Greg should have been in here about 6 minutes ago. But hey, when you're humping and when you're pumping out content left and right for the Panini Senior Bowl, things happen. But Greg Moore, man,
Right.
first off, appreciate you joining, my guy.
All good. All good. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I got you loud and clear. All right, Greg, let's
Okay. Okay.
start with the Senior Bowl as a whole.
hmm
Practices were moved back as a media member covering it. I'm glad they did that. I appreciate that from Drew.
hmm
I tagged him today
hmm
in the post and told him to keep doing it. Um,
hmm
when you look at the Senior Bowl, give me a couple of guys who have stood out to you. I just talked about wide receiver from LSU that I think made some money for himself down here today, a young man that you talked about earlier.
Barry Brown.
Who are
Right
some
on.
guys that stood out to you? Who are some guys that have stood out to you so far this week?
So I'm a receivers guy, and I'm a home state guy. So I'm gonna lead with the home state guy. Barry Brown, Pearl High School. I covered him when he went to UTK. I was down there for that big game he had at against Ole Miss when he was at UTK. And then he made the switch to LSU, and it just didn't materialize the way that most of us would have guessed it would have. I think he made some money today. Ty Montgomery, small school. I'm a small school guy. D2 guy. Went to Lane College, so I'm always rooting for the small school guys. So that's a little bit of my own bias right there. Um, but the Twin Towers, CD and Virgil from Texas Tech, I really feel like they've been hooping both days. I think they really made some money down here. Tall, rangy receivers can bend. Don't really have to drop weight that much because they already start out neutral. Clean transitions, can make a play down the field, made plays in traffic. I think they both play really well. And yeah, I'm a receivers
We've got
guy, and that's
uh,
my group. So I'm a always force
100%.
on the receivers.
I get it. Little bit of biasness. All right, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. All right, look. So we've
Right,
got we call them 4-star specials, but we're covering all the guys from the Arkansas Razorbacks. Then we're getting
right,
into some Memphis guys, 901 flavor. We got Kieron Crawford, Bryson Eason. And then on the
right. Watch
national
both of them
level,
play in
we
high
got to talk
school.
about Diego Pavia, probably the most polarizing figure in all of Mobile right now. And I'm really excited to see how he parties this weekend with Theo Vaughn. Anyway, and then
Yeah.
Charles Dennings from Stephen F. Austin, the Lumberjacks. I really like
Yes.
this kid a lot. I like his upside. I think he's a
Hmm.
guy that could be a real sleeper in this
Hmm.
draft. When you look at those guys, we'll start with the Arkansas core. What have you seen from guys like Taylor Green, Mike Washington, and that group of hogs?
So the Hogs are a group of guys that really, like I said about Brown, it really just didn't materialize like it should have. Uh, but those guys all have tremendous upside. I think they've all made money down here. Taylor Green came in exactly what we thought he was going to be size wise. Every bit of 6'5", 6'6", big arm. He extended a play today and threw one downfield for a touchdown. And Fields from Notre Dame made a great play on the ball. Those guys have, I feel like those guys have really improved their draft stock. That Arkansas core is really tough. Bryson Easton is a guy that I watched in high school, played middle linebacker, and they were in that 53 Bear. And he covered like nobody's business in high school, and he hasn't lost that twitch. He came off the ball day one of practice, showed off that twitch and that speed to power. And I think he's done really well for his draft stock as well. And then Crawford is also a Memphis guy, basketball background. I think he's a blank canvas. And granted, he played powerful football, but the kid is not a full-time football player yet. I mean, he is now, but and I said kid. These guys are grown men now, but yeah, he's done well for himself. And you can tell that basketball range when he's coming off the ball. Yeah, those two guys, especially being Memphis guys, like I've been proud watching them.
And I tell you, I described Bryson Easton today as tenacious. I think he has a
No, he
tenacious
is.
pass rush in him, and if he can just utilize the setup, and I know you know what I'm talking about when I say the setup. If he can utilize the setup more, show how he's got a little more versatility in his pass rush, he's going to continue to climb. And then Kieran Crawford, you talk about the athleticism. My gosh, that kid just jumps off the page to me, literally, no pun intended. He jumps off the page to me, and when I tell you when he sets that edge, T.J. Parker from Cleveland, I thought, or Clemson, I thought did a really good job setting the edge today. But I would
Yeah.
love to see those guys, T.J. Parker and Kieran Crawford, bookends on somebody's defensive line. That would be nasty.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would for sure. And I think when you're talking about Eason again, like I alluded to, like this guy was a middle linebacker, right? And so his first time really putting his hand in the dirt was at UTK. And so some of that versatility that you're alluding to, like that's going to come with time. And he hasn't had a whole lot of reps at D line, but um, I think that versatility is going to come with experience, and it's going to bode well for him in the long run.
Greg Moore joining me tonight, Panini Primetime from Mobile, Alabama, covering all things Panini American Senior Bowl. Greg, day one, you know how this works. I'm just talking to the fans. But Greg, day one's install. Everybody's install. You get day two, you get a little more install. Day three, you get a little more install. But day one to day two, I thought the defensive units from the American and the national team really stepped up today and really came with some ferociousness, honestly. What
Right,
did you
right.
see from a defensive perspective today on both practices?
I felt like, man, and I spent a lot of time down with the receivers and DBs because I got both receiver groups. And what I can tell you from the defensive secondary, like the first day they were like really handsy, and you can tell guys weren't really relying on technique. They were just trying to get their hands on guys and being physical. And I can respect that. It was a lot more flags day one than it was today. Again, because guys were a lot more handsy. And we were talking about it over dinner tonight. Like you could really tell on both sides of the ball, honestly, that guys came out with more juice. And I just think that it just points back to guys are finally feeling like they're a team. Like it's one thing to go to meetings and interviews and be around in the facility, and it's a whole nother thing that you can see a guy, you can respect what a guy brings to the table for your unit, and then now y'all are starting to gel and have chemistry. So I think some of that is just day two. Like the guys been around each other a little bit longer. They've seen who do what well and how they can play off of each other. And then again, like you said, day two with the install wise, like guys are just more comfortable with the system. And so some of that is that too.
I talked about it last night, talked about it today, and we've got plenty of articles out at fourstar.live. And the key to this week, and I think the phrase of the week is stacking days. You've got to
Right,
stack days, but you got to stack them in a productive way. You look at
right,
Julian Neal yesterday. I thought Julian struggled a little bit yesterday. I thought he was out of placement a few times. He got beat by Hurst on the sideline. Not the only person that's ever happened to. That kid is incredible
right,
out of
right,
Georgia State. But
right,
you look at Julian today. Julian did not let yesterday get to him. It did not. He did not let it affect him. He came in today and made a statement. I thought he made a major step forward. When you look at this week as a whole, Greg, and we're getting ready to get into exactly what you're doing down there specifically. But when you look at this as a whole, how important is it for these young men from a mental aspect? Because mental health is very important. From a
right,
mental aspect, how important is it for these guys to stay locked in and not really worry about what happened the previous day?
right. So the confidence piece is one of those things that we really don't talk about in the football space. And what I mean by that, most of these guys, if not all of them, were guys, like were the guy at their high school. Um, And so, the higher you go with this thing, the less likely you are the guy, right? So, it's learning how to be a good teammate, how to be a role player, how to be a cog in the machine. Um, and so, on the mental side of it, for me, like I always look for what kind of confidence a guy carries. I'm not saying like arrogance or cockiness, but what kind of confidence do you carry? If you get beat by a guy, how do you make the play? Like, how do you come back the next day and the play after? And we've seen guys like just straight up ooze confidence. Especially like I said on that back end, I've been like, and I'm not a DB guy. I don't really care for DBs because I'm a receiver guy through and through. But it's been really good seeing the DBs bounce back day two and show some of that confidence. I heard guys be a little more chippy today. I saw guys battling for reps to go against certain receivers. And like you said, like a couple times guys got beat yesterday or was a little bit too handsy yesterday, but then they came back today and it was a totally different story. So I look for guys to be confident on the mental side. I look for guys to be confident, and then like as far as like in the facility, the mental aspect of it is how do you carry yourself? Are you a professional? Do you know how to be on time? Do you know how to show up? Do you know how to be accounted for? And then a lot of like I said, like a lot of that stuff goes into like what kind of teammate you are. Because if you don't know how to do those things in a facility at a senior showcase, then how can you do those things in a professional setting?
That's an incredible answer right there. And that's something that we've been talking about in this entire process is that, this is not, yes, practice is almost more important than the game, but
Right,
it's the conversations, it's the
right.
connections, it's the interviews with these NFL teams. Because, like I told somebody the other day, if these guys are asking you a question, they already know the answer. They've talked to your best friend's best friend, and they know the first time you smoked a cigarette. So they know
Yeah,
anything and
right,
everything.
right.
Greg, let's talk about you, man. What are you doing down there specifically? Let's promote yourself down there in Mobile, Alabama.
Well, man, before I even say anything about what I'm doing down here, I got to give a shout out to the people that made it possible. Number one, the kids that gave me an opportunity to lead them and coach them and train them back in Memphis, Tennessee. Because if they didn't give me a platform to do that, nobody would have found me in the first place. And then after that, of course, Michael Coe was our DFO our first year down. He's a guy from Memphis, Tennessee. And then of course Jim Nagy for OK in it. But the way that I got down here was unconventional because most of these guys go to scout school and I was a guy that got down here initially to be a part of the inaugural HBCU combine. Came down, I asked to be a fly on the wall. They granted me access to that. And then it kind of just spilled over into needing to assist during the week for the Senior Bowl. And then it went from that to, covering a couple games here and there in the Mid South region. And then after that, a little bit of cross checking receivers here and there. And then just guys down here understanding that I have an eye for talent when it comes to the receiver play and understanding what receivers need and what they look for in receivers at the next level. So I do some area scouting, I do some cross checking here and there, and during the week I'm a group leader with both receiver groups on the national and American team. I'm responsible for looking out for these guys and making sure they're where they're supposed to be, as well as supporting them on the field where they need help.
Man, it sounds like you're just continuing to just give forward, man. Give back. Just you're just blessing these kids. It's really it sounds like to me it's what that's what you're out doing. You're just out trying to pay it forward and make these kids the best they can be on and off the field. Greg Moore, before I let you go, man, I got a couple of rapid fire questions for you. Number
Hopefully they're
one.
not too bad.
Well, no. Number one.
Come on with it.
Did
Come on with
Taylon
it.
Green have the throw of the week today with that 60-yard frozen rope?
I would say so. I know for sure today. I said that was the play of the day. Once it happened, as it was happening, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's the play of the day." More tape, but off just off of the naked eye, and it's still fresh. I would say yes. I would definitely say yes. Look comfortable back there, extended the play like I said, and he heaved it. And I think Fields did a great job tracking the ball, and just made a big play. Both of them, tremendous play by both of those guys, as well as the front five for giving them, the space and opportunity for that. Because nothing happens downfield without the front.
We talk about the talented players here. Who are a couple of coaches that you think maybe may not be talked about? People may not even know they're in Mobile. But who are a couple of coaches? Because it's not these, it's not Sean Payton, it's not the head coaches, it's the positional coaches, it's the assistants, it's the guys that are the grinders. Who's a couple of coaches that you want to give some love to tonight?
Man, so I actually haven't spent a whole lot of time with the coaches because I've been running around, with the guys and, doing what's needed in the facility. But I sat down and met with a guy that I've had an affinity for a long time, Coach Keith Williams. He coaches receiver for the Saints. And if you're a receivers guy, like if you're any kind of receivers guy, you know Coach Dubs, and phenomenal coach, knows his stuff. Whether you're talking about mechanics or the science of the position, phenomenal. And I'm not saying anything that receiver guys don't know. And I think Coach Hurts has done a great job being the head coach of the national team. I think he's done a tremendous job. We sat down with him today during brunch, and man, he was just sharing a whole lot of stuff with us about his journey, how he sees football right now. I shared with him some stuff that I see at the high school level. He shared some stuff with me on, how to cure some of that stuff in my city. And I just love the way he approaches it. Then come to find out he was at Miami from 97 to '01. And so that lets you know like the thought process and the mentality of him leading the team and, wanting the team to get after people because he told me straight up at Miami in that window, like those guys, like the team was ran by the leaders. And those guys got after it every day. He said, if you're not going to practice like you're going to play the game, then you're wasting time at practice. And that's something that I'm going to carry with me for the rest of my coaching career.
Greg Moore sitting down with us tonight on Panini Primetime, the one-stop wall-to-wall place for all things Senior Bowl, brought to you by Craters and Freighters Memphis. If you need to be packaged up and shipped out, no matter if it's across the street, across the state, across the country, or across the world, head to Craters and Freighters Memphis.com for more information. Greg, before we get you out of here, I got one question for you. You talked about high school, and I've got to ask the question. The
What is it?
AFCA, they had a chance to change the calendar, but instead they voted for players to have 3/4 of a season to choose whether they want to put a red shirt on their butt or not. How does this affect high schools and high school recruiting across the country?
Um, from my vantage point, man, high school recruiting is in a rough spot right now. Part of it is if your high school coach doesn't actively get out to network, meaning like doesn't get out to meet college coaches and like share with the coaches their football prowess. Also, like if they're not putting their guys on their platform to get out there, it's going to be tough for them to be recruited. But I just think right now it's really hard for a high school kid if you're not height, weight, speed, or if you're not connected to a high school coach that like really knows people and in the right spots, it's going to be a tough go. But then on the flip side of that, and we've been talking about that a lot in coaching circles in Memphis, um, we have to do a better job as a community understanding where guys are in the process, what type of schools these guys should be going to in the process, and then also not holding out and waiting for the right fit. You know what I mean? When it comes time to commit, like some of these guys are not committing to the schools because they're not big enough, and then they end up missing out totally. So we can talk about what's done, on the college level, but there's some stuff that we need to fix on the home front. Um, and then some of that too is just, families not having the information. And so at some point, some kind of way, we have to do a good job of sharing that information on how college football has changed, how recruiting has changed, and how we can help these young people get out of the area.
No doubt. I mean, there's a guy named Mike Farrell with Mike Farrell Productions. You may have heard of him. I'm a big proponent of his, a big friend of the show. And Mike is real big on, hey, we got to be honest about where the talent level of these players are. Just
Right,
because you played quarterback and you were talented as a dad does not
right.
mean little Johnny is going to have the same arm cannon that you had playing for whatever high school back in the day as you're trying to live vicariously through your kid. And I mean, I coached youth football for close to 9 years in the Memphis area. I'm very familiar with how parents are. They literally will live vicariously through their children, coming into huddles and everything. It's crazy. But you
But I
look,
think
and
I
I
think there's
think
another
that's,
component to that too, though. And not
yeah.
to cut you off, like I think coaches too are holding on to, like, there's a metric there, or there used to be a metric where you could look at a guy and say, all right, so he's an FCS or a Group of Five talent, but it may have been that way 5, 6 years ago. But now that kid is a high level Division 2 to mid level Division 2 because of the landscape. And so now we just have to change the way that we approach it, or the way that we think about recruiting, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes 100% sense. And I also think that a lot of times, and I'm not a parent, but a lot of times parents go, "Oh, recruiting, oh, that's D1. If it's not D1, it's not worth it." That's a lie. You can go
That's a lot.
D2. I'm very familiar with Ouachita Baptist University, very familiar with the Great American Conference. You can go to that
Hmm.
conference right there, and you can win a
It's some
national
good football.
championship. Ask Hardy.
Good,
You can go to
good
that. You can go
football
to
down
that
there.
conference. You can get tape on you week in, week out. And I mean, I think when you look around the country, D2, D3 schools, a lot of times they're forgotten about. But look at Trinidad Chambliss,
Hmm.
Ferris State.
Look at Ty Montgomery.
I was just about to say Ty Montgomery,
Hmm.
same way. You
Yep.
look, and Ty is making a MF and name for himself down in Mobile.
Yes, he is.
You look at these guys, Greg, and it's man, incredible insight tonight, man. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you coming on, and man, I appreciate your grind down here in Mobile, man. And I tell you what, man, I'm gonna be leaning on you more and more throughout this
Yes, sir.
season, but going into next season too, man. I think we made a hell of a connection here, and we
Yes,
appreciate you coming
sir.
on with us tonight.
Thank you, man. Have a great evening.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, it's Greg Moore coming on, breaking down Panini Senior Bowl. Man, it's on the field. If you don't follow him, hit him up on Twitter, hit him up on Facebook, man. Greg Moore, appreciate you, man. Incredible stuff right there from Greg. And that's the insight that we bring right here at Four Star Sports Media. We're gonna bring guys who are here. We're gonna bring guys who understand the game, who have coached the game. We're not on here just flapping gums. Like I said the other day, we've been doing this thing for a while now, and I think that our consistent coverage will show that we do this the right way. We do it the right way. Now, what does day two tell us when you put it all together? For the national team, the defense set the tone. We talked to Greg about that. Defense really set the tone in both practices today. You saw some connections with Pavia, the Wisconsin wide receiver. Eason's playing really well, tenacious. We talked about Rodriguez. We talked about Hood. Talked about Parker. Then for the American team, you look at the Arkansas sextet. That's 6 Arkansas players. And as we close, we'll do a little stock up, stock down. Let's go stock watch. Stock up, Bryson Eason. Stock up, Charles Deming. Stock up, Xavier Sori today. Stock up, Cam Ball. Stock up, Mike Washington. Stock up, Julian Neal. Julian Neal had a hell of a practice today. Kieran Crawford continues to play really, really, really well. And then intriguing, Cole Payton. It's a trio of quarterbacks: Cole Payton, Luke Altmaier, and Taylor Green. These three guys I want to watch tomorrow, day 3. I want to see how these guys step in. I want to see how these guys. Ken Taylor, he had a great throw today. He made some mistakes. He had some overthrows. He was very inconsistent. He threw an interception. Can they continue to put steps forward? And can they continue to run the offenses the way they need? Well, this is going to wrap it up for tonight on Panini Primetime. A quick salute to the people making this happen. We're broadcasting from the Creators and Freighters studio, a leader in specialty creating and shipping for over 3 decades. And all of our written coverage is presented by Chris Hope Foundation, supporting families through facing childhood cancers and life-threatening illnesses. If you want to get involved, go check out and see the work that they're doing. Head to cratersandfreighters.com. Head to chrishopefoundation.org for more information. Day 2 of the American Senior Bowl gave us exactly what we hoped for. Pads popping, defensive dictating, quarterbacks battling for rhythm. And like Greg said, you're seeing guys get chippy. You're seeing guys get more competitive. And a Southern Core of Hogs and a Tiger driving the storyline down here in Mobile. Tomorrow, we shift into day 3. We do more stock watch. We got a final practice impressions as we inch closer to kickoff here in Mobile. For Panini, the Creators and Freighters, Chris Hope Foundation, our guest, Greg Moore, and everyone here at 4-Star Sports Media, I'm Wes Pruitt. This has been Panini Primetime from Mobile, Alabama. We'll talk to you tomorrow evening.